If you are looking to 3x your income within a calendar year, so 12 months, how is it exactly you can do that? So that's a 500 to 500 to 1500. That's a 5,000 to 15,000. That's all of these types of numbers, right? Whatever your relative salary is. And to do that within a year is unusual, but to do that means that you need to think about the way that you approach your work differently. So, what I want to talk to you about today, for those of you who are listening, is exactly how, if I was ultimately working for me or how I was operating in the marketplace, I would be able to build towards 3xing my income following these steps. So the classic challenge that you'll have, and this is where you questions have already come up within my own company. If I'm not directly attached to the company revenue, so for example, if you're not in frontline sales, where you are clearly able to see that, well, if I close this business, then that client or prospect will turn into this client and pay X, therefore I deserve Y. So that's the typical place where the evidence to a decent degree, not a complete degree, and I'll go on to explain that, does speak for itself. So this is primarily to an extent address that all of those people who are in departments that are not directly attached to revenue. So one of the things that's important if you want to 3x your income, there is some learning that you can take from that. So number one, the closer you can attach your work to the money, the more money you'll make. That's a truism of any industry. That's why people, for example, let's say in finance, might earn more than people that work in marketing if they're in the business of, let's say, trading or sales. Let's take sales as a broad, for example, space. That doesn't mean to say though that you cannot then connect your work to the income. And fundamentally, that is the first big point that you need to understand. What happens, especially at if you're working at a company where you have direct contact with the founder, so the example will be Pearl Lemon. If you're at a company that does a couple of million, you can basically work out. So connecting your one place that you need to begin to 3x your salary is connecting your work to the income of the company. So there's three ways within any organization typically that a company can generate value from any person. Do you make me money? Do you save me money? Or do you save me a significant amount of time? So they're the three areas that you need to raise to your level of consciousness in general, because it's important to understand your connection with that. Because otherwise, there's always the challenge that you fall into the place of being a disposable asset to some degree. Because if you're not doing one of those three things, then in what way are you filling value that isn't replaceable? Okay. So in order to, and again, remember, we're talking in terms of 3xing your salary in 1 year, right? You need to connect your work to the revenue. So how do I save the company money? How do I make the company money? Or how do I save the company a significant amount of time, which is tantamount to saving or making the company money, depending upon which way you look at it. If you, for example, take or find a way to save 10 hours a week through a process, and a process that is unorthodox and unusual to find, then that's a simple way of demonstrating, okay, in this way, I've saved the company money. Now, that's bucket number one. So, in regards to my role, can I save the company money, save the company time, or make the company money? So, as an example, let's go through each of them. Let's take the let's take the example of, for example, HR. Okay, so one way HR can make the company money is it can hire amazing salespeople, because an amazing salesperson might start making 8 appointments week one, and that might raise the benchmarks for the rest of the company. So that would be one example of how HR could directly make the company money by saying, Deepak, I took it upon myself to look at the to look now. Now again, I'm going to actually go back a step. So when you connect your work to revenue, you've got to start also thinking about your position a little bit more mathematically. So what do I? So one thing to think about is, what do I earn? What does that mean for the people in the department? What level of income does this department generate? If you have those numbers, fantastic. If you don't, you can approximate those numbers. But oftentimes, many companies, you can figure out what those numbers are because people understand the tickets. You'll also have some degree of recognition that, well, It's not a direct, if a company generates, let's say, £10,000 from a client, that's all, of course, profit, because there's taxes, there's salaries, there's other departments, there's having a cash reserve in times of famine, there's investments, there's all of these other areas. But you can begin to get a sense of things. So what often people will do is not figure out some of those numbers. So it would begin with understanding, well, what is the, for example, revenue that a company makes? How many clients do we have? Roughly, what do I think our costs are? And just knowing those numbers is quite powerful, because then you can begin to understand company costs, and also then begin to align that with your cost versus value per head, because then you can get an equivalent sense of value, saying, okay, if you have a company that has $1 million, then we have 15 employees or 50 employees, you can work out a basic revenue per head as an example. And then you can say, okay, so this is what every person in this position from a revenue perspective might need to generate. So just knowing those numbers becomes quite useful, because then you can begin to connect it to, for example, your goals. So now if we relate this to HR, that would be, okay, great. So we have X amount of salespeople. We have two salespeople. They're bringing in one deal each a month. Each of them generates $2,000 in sales figures. So that's $4,000 a month that these two people generate. Or, we're using simple numbers. If I can bring in someone who, based upon what they do, has the ability to generate more, then I can have a direct impact, because I can bring in the next superstar. Another way of saving money could be looking at your role and looking at resource hogs. Are there tools or processes that could be aggressively, fundamentally changed to speed up the company time that has a site-wide change upon the company? So that would be an example of saving money. That could be at departmental level, and that could be at a company level. Then you've got, of course, and that could be a function of saving money and saving time. So that's just ultimately one example with HR. So once you've figured out some of these numbers, you then need to identify your quickest route to achieving any one of those three things. Can I make the company more money? Can I save the company more money? Can I save the company time? And once you begin to understand those numbers, you can also benchmark and say, okay, great. So one of the big things that I see that doesn't always happen is that you need to connect your work to revenue, identify your quickest path to revenue. So within HR, we spoke about hiring the next salesperson. Within HR, it could be also improving the caliber of the people within the company significantly by improving, for example, the requirements for people to enter the company, by significantly increasing the volume of the applicants that are coming in, thus improving the standard or the requirement for people to come in. And better quality people typically equates with better quality outcomes. That's within HR, right? So you will then also, when you identify your quickest path to revenue, and let's just go through several other departments, okay? So that's HR as an example. Let's go through accounting as an example now, okay? So I've got my list here, and let me just see. If you give me sharing access, Troy, that would be brilliant. So yeah, so once you identify your quickest path to revenue, some of you will quickly say that, well, there's going to be constraints, and there's always going to be constraints that you are, let's say, limited to. Know that, first of all, that everyone has relative constraints. So HR's constraint, for example, might be that, okay, well, the company's not hiring salespeople, and therefore we are not in a position to be able to impact that there. So then the answer might be, okay, so one of the things that you will face in your roles, HR, well, we're not hiring. Accounting, well, how do I connect processing invoices or processing salary payments with making the company money or saving the company money? Well, maybe you could do a cash flow analysis and identify the increases. So, for example, one thing that I would love to know that we don't track is how consistently people are getting pay rises and how often. Maybe you can identify that, well, Deepak, this is the industry standard. This is where we're at. These departments, these people aren't getting enough pay rises, and here they're getting a lot more. And just knowing that might be another example. Or a different example could be that, okay, well, we're not hiring. So what about me having an initiative to improve the actual standard of the team that we have? We've got these series of trainings that we could introduce. And I think that's going to, for example, help make the company money, because I notice that one of the issues that comes up is XYZ with employee happiness. So we can do this to improve employee happiness. Deepak, that's going to improve employee retention. And look, since I've come in, we keep people, because I find out before anyone that Johnny's unhappy. And I just go and I make sure that I talk to everybody and I feed you this gold mine of valuable information about people's personal problems, what that means professionally. And therefore, as a consequence, we're now seeing that our attrition rate with people maybe leaving has gone down because I'm identifying ahead of time people's unhappiness. And in that way, Deepak, I'm saving the company money because there's always a cost to rehire, there's always a cost to relearn, and also the value that Johnny will drive down the road in 4 months now. All actually that Johnny needed was a bit more appreciation because he's feeling underappreciated because he's putting all this fucking hard work in and he's not feeling that he's getting any reward. He understands where he's at in terms of the income, but I think he needs some appreciation. So there's multiple ways that you connect your work with making the company money, saving the company money, or saving the company time. And the numbers are important because then you can begin to connect your ultimately work with the numbers. And there will always be constraints. So with accounting, as I said, that you can identify when how systematically people are giving pay rises. You can quantify which departments cost the differential cost between each department. You can identify ultimately Deepak, your marketing spend each month has gone up by 30% month on month. I just thought I'd let you know because I also then compared that with our volume of leads, and our leads aren't going up at that rate at all. They're going up more. They've actually gone down in the last 3 months. So Deepak, you've increased your marketing spend by this proportion, but the actual raw number of leads that we get has gone down. Oh, wow. You know what I need to do? I need to stop spending money on all of those links and I need to wait a little bit. Oh, wow. I need to view the departmental changes I'm making a bit differently because maybe we don't need to hire that additional 2 people because I thought that we just needed more people, but actually we need something else. So there's always a way. That's accounting. Okay. So identifying the constraints. Now, one of the questions that came up from the SEO team is that a constraint I have is the Google algorithm. A constraint that I have is the company that we work with, they did a site change and they removed their sitemap and it caused the results to tank. That was outside of my control. And as a consequence, the rankings went down and I don't want to be penalized for it. So there's a couple of things that I'd say to the constraints. Working with the mindset that you're limited by constraints, number one, will constrain any of you because the reality is there's always going to be a different version of a constraint. So people have personal constraints. My constraint is I have spotty internet. My constraint is my sister keeps running into the room and snicking my Play-Doh. My mum bangs on the door. My wife doesn't appreciate all of the hours that I work. People have constraints. Everyone will have constraints, and everyone know that everyone has constraints that you're unaware of because you need to make it your job to resolve that at home and then bring your best self to work. But with all of that being said, it's important to identify all of the constraints that you have and fundamentally try and remove as many of them as you can as possible. So many of your personal constraints try and resolve. So that could be having a keep out sign on your door or I'm in a meeting sign on your door. That could be tactically figuring out when is the best time of day to do some focus if you're working from home. That could be getting your gym session in an hour later or an hour earlier. But then when it comes to work, when you're dependent upon other people within your team, because this is the classic one, or the clients, the way to remove that constraint is to some degree, develop the ability to go around them or to do the work for them. Because our clients would expect the same thing. I.e., Deepak, I paid you. I didn't present you an ideal set of circumstances, but that's why you're the professional. Because you meant to get me the result, irrespective of me not clearly following the process. And it's naive for all of us to think that that's how the process is going to work. Because time has taught me that there's always going to be these constraints. So then the question becomes in the SEO example, how can I, if there's a Google algo update, still get rewarded? Well, if I focus on producing such a level of result, then whilst 1 or 2 clients will be punished, maybe the other 4 will win fucking big. And as a consequence, overall, we will progress. Maybe I have a process that doesn't just rely upon our own individual website because I create all of these articles on third-party platforms that generate a shitload of referral traffic. So regardless of the algo update, we still or the client still wins. So you need to figure out what those constraints are, and you need to work around them or through them, because otherwise you will always be victim to, well, there's things that are outside of my control. So you need to bend reality to your will. So figuring out what your KPI is if you want to 3x your income, you say, great, I need to produce an outstanding result for my clients. What does an outstanding result look like? What is the work that's required to get there? And how would I be able to still reproduce those results in a less than ideal environment? Because that's what you'll get paid real value for. Because in the end, our clients won't care about the algo update. Your income won't care about the algo update. This is in the SEO example. And there's going to be various constraints. Your constraints might be your team. You say, Deepak, my team are letting me down. Improve the quality of your team. Help them, train them, motivate them, inspire them. If that doesn't work, replace them. How do I replace them, Deepak? Learn their job and do it for them. That's how one person can produce the value of 15, 20 other people within an organization because they learn and they function at a level that's so good that they might say, well, Deepak, with the SEO side of it, I don't need anyone to do link building anymore because what I do is once a week, I quickly review the news for 45 minutes and I identify some really interesting stories. Did you know that there's some interesting facts about this in the world right now? So if we're talking currently, it's at the time of recording, it's the European Championships. Deepak, there's this really interesting stuff that I could write about, England always being depressed or Cristiano Ronaldo, it being his final tournament or how well, or Italy's disappointing. And I have this list of journalists. And what I do every 2 weeks is I produce a little article, I post it out, and we pick up all of this PR. And as a consequence, I can not only do the SEO, I can do the link building. Then you create a differential result. You create differential value. So there's linear approaches to improving your salary, but rarely will a linear approach get you a 3x result because you're looking for a 3x result. If you want an expected result, which is cool, I'm at $1,000. I want to get to 1,200, 1,500. And for those of you who are watching, a lot of my team are in developing economies, so that's where these rationales, these numbers come from. But expected salary increases come from expected work. If we're talking about 3x a result in a year, it comes from unexpected work, unexpected value, or value far in advance of what was expected for your position. So I was expected to achieve this level in 2 years. I got there in 2 months. And it's all doable. So I think that once you've identified your constraints, that's quite powerful because you look at all of your limiting factors and you seek to remove them one by one so that you widen your sphere of influence. So one of my constraints as a company founder is that I'm not sharing enough of my goals as well as the goals. So my goal is to build $1 billion company. Part of that involves me inspiring my team to be the best version of themselves at work as well as at home, because that will help me also with my goals of developing this company, because the requirement to get there is to not only get in the highest caliber people relative to the constraints that I currently operate in, but it's also to improve aggressively as I can the quality of the people that I have. And part of that then involves me producing this content, putting it out publicly, putting it all over YouTube and all of the socials, because in time, I know that that will massively improve the quality of people that apply at Pearl Lemon, because I'll see this content and then I'll be able to get a much, much higher caliber of people as a baseline. And then that's what I think will remove the constraint I have, because I am at a level of business where relying upon my own work is not going to be the best way for me based upon what I know right now to achieve the outcomes that I want. So therefore, I need to build this roadmap for people, and connecting you with the revenue will help me achieve your goals because it will help me achieve mine. Because the 3x your salary, you need to some degree 10x the income that you can produce. And that begins with even understanding where the income comes from and the income that you generate. So identify your constraints and then figure out how you can pick them off one by one. And typically it's your team. It begins with yourself, actually. It's always yourself. It's yourself and your thinking, then it's your team. And if you can cause everyone to level up, the net benefit of figuring a rollout so that you can help others with it is phenomenal. It's the same reason I'm doing these videos, because I'm seeing the phenomenal, and I use that word intentionally, the phenomenal return on investment that I'm getting from the expansive mindset the team are developing. Because then the irony is that I could pay people 3x more, but if I didn't do these videos, I still wouldn't get the mindset shift that I'd be looking for. which is the irony of it. I wouldn't get that change in understanding and discipline. That wouldn't get, for example, people. So it always begins with yourself. Then it will begin with looking around your team, and then it will begin looking around at the market. So we all have spheres, and start with the sphere you have most influence over first, which is yourself, and then it's your team, and then it's the company. So that's the other part there. So then the so I've got identify you can 10x the value that you provide. So figure out what is 10 times the result of what I'm doing right now. What would that look like? So in HR, how could I 10x the quality of the people that I bring in, and how could I 10x the employee happiness? And already that would be the right way to think about things. With accounting, it'd be how can I 10x the analysis of the numbers that we have so I can identify hidden gold and gems within it that the company otherwise wouldn't know. In marketing, it would be how can I 10x the number of inquiries that we get such that the result is just, you know, self-evident, whether that's for clients, whether that's internally. So that's where you can begin to provide the value that's expected. Then you can look at providing differential value. And sometimes the differential value can provide the more than expected value. So there's always more than one way to skin the cat. So if you're an SEO and thinking that, well, I do technical SEO, I can't produce that level of outcome, I would say to you, then expand your skill set, which is what Jim Rohn talks about when he says, don't wish it was easier, wish you were better. Don't ask for less challenges, ask for more skills. It's always the way. So I want you to remember what he says is so true. Don't wish it was easier, wish you were better. Don't ask for less challenges, ask for more skills. Because then you can expand your sphere of influence because you can develop all of the skills that are required to make it all happen by yourself. So not only can I do technical SEO, I can send the emails out, I can do the link building, I can think of the crazy PR stories. Why not? Because why is learning, for example, in this instance, how to build a list harder than learning how to cold call? Why? Why is it? If I can learn how to speak to any decision maker in the world, how ridiculous is it of me to think that I can't figure out how to find some lead generation tools and go through the pains of building a list? If I'm in technical SEO, why can't I learn the skills to send emails to journalists to try and generate PR stories? Why can't I? Most people don't think like that. That's why most people don't get the 3x return on investment, because also people, and this is something that's important for you to remember, that you're never operating in a isolated environment. If you want to 3x your income, don't think that every other motherfucker around you doesn't want to do the same thing. Don't think every guy underneath you, sideways to you, in the same position of you, doesn't want to try and do the same thing. So you have to remember that then you need to provide irreplaceable value. And that's the key. Deepak, I'm providing to you, or whoever your employee is, I'm providing a level of value to you that you will fucking struggle to find in the marketplace. That's why I'm worth 3x the value of the market or of whatever I'm worth now. And that's the question you need to be honest with yourself, and you need to ask yourself, am I that good? And mostly the answer is no. I'm not that good, which is humbling, but that's the truth. I have to accept the fact that am I a $5 million guy? No, I'm not. Why? Because I'm not fucking there yet. Simple. Of course I aspire to be there, but aspirations and inspiration isn't execution. Execution will get me there. So that's always useful to remember, that am I doing something that someone of perhaps the same stage in their career couldn't do? If I was to leave right now, would I realistically leave my employer in a complete hole? And if the answer isn't anything less than no, then the value isn't differential. So that's really powerful, I think, to think about also. So the other final thing to say is that log your wins, log your victories, because no one fucking else is going to do it for you. Log it. Be really clear with your wins and track your progress. Ramit Sethi talks about this concept of when asking for his employees want to talk in free excess salary, whatever it might be. And it's the same with clients, is show all of the value that you provided. Show how you've grown. Show how you've developed. Show the numbers. Numbers are persuasive. Numbers plus sentiment are persuasive. I feel I've changed. And look, the numbers demonstrate that I've fucking changed. I've grown. I'm better. We're better. Look at the team performance. Look at the level of influence that I have, that I instill. this is what I mean when I talk about make your success undeniable, because you need to remember that you don't operate in a vacuum, and you need to get to that place, and wherever you are, you want to be, be indispensable. Be fucking indispensable. And think to myself, could I really be replaced? If you think maybe, then you have to ask yourself, well, what do I need to change that into a no? Replacing me would be fucking difficult, because there's always two options when you go to, and this is the final thing. So I've gone through six things at the moment. Number one, connect your work to revenue. Do I make money? Do I save money? Do I save time? And if you don't know the answer to that, figure out what the answer is. If you need some help, ask the people around you, ask the people above you. How can I connect my work to the goals of the company and the revenue of the company? And then once you figure that out, identify your quickest path to revenue, or identify your 10 roads to revenue. Because eventually they say, right, all roads lead to Rome. So if you figure out which path seems easiest, best, and quickest, and great, figure that out. Don't be singularly reliant upon that road necessarily, but at least figure out, well, which path can get me to the road that I want to. And there'll always also, as you line that up, be constraints. One of the constraints currently is that I don't know, which is why I'm making this video for my team, who you can't see on YouTube, but a lot of you have got I don't really know how to 3x my income. So one of the reasons I'm doing this is because I want to show you, because one of the constraints you have is I don't fucking know. So that's one example of a constraint. Okay. The next constraint is, well, if I want to provide differential value and I've got one set of skills, then I need to learn a different set of skills, because otherwise I am replaceable. The truth is, if I'm a beast over the phone and the company made me that beast, could the company make another beast like me? Maybe. Probably. So am I actually irreplaceable? This is for the guys who are already doing well on the phone. Is this making sense? You're not the only people, of course, that I can mold. And that's that. And knowledge is power, because that's humbling, but it also means that, cool, I know what else I need to do to build a unique set of skills, a unique composition of skills that are difficult to find anywhere else. That's why we have had companies. That's why, in spite of our limitations, as an agency, we're doing better than a lot of other agencies, because there's a level of differential value that we provide. The way that we do things, the speed at which we operate, we do provide some differential value in the marketplace, because otherwise there wouldn't be 70 people in the company. There'd be fucking 7. And I'd still be living in fucking central London, renting and scraping by. I wouldn't have grown to the company to this size. My limitation is that I've not channeled my mindset and level of discipline into the team that I have. And I'm changing that now, of course, and I'm seeing the value. And I believe that that's going to generate the requisite result. So connect your work to the revenue, make money, save time, identify your quickest path to the revenue, list out all of the options, boom, 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 boom. Identify the constraints, figure out how you work around or get around the constraints. If you're relying on other people to be in control of your success to some degree, then I think that to a decent degree, that's a fool's errand. Do you think the delivery team aren't delivering? Learn how to fucking deliver yourself and say, Deepak, I can replace that person. Give me their money. I said this to one person in the company. I said, and I won't reveal that on the call because it's fine. But I said, look, I don't think this person is performing. Expansion mindset, learn their role. I'll give you a proportion of their income, and that will be a significant proportion, and you can do really well. There's lots of ways to 3x your income, and that's one of the ways to do it. So that's where differential value comes in. So you identify the constraints, identify how you can 10x the value you provide, and then and as I said, number 6 was log your wins and log your victories and keep track to understand if you're really progressing. Which is why, for those who are in the self-improvement group, I have a smartwatch. I don't want any of this fucking Rolex bullshit. I want to track everything. I want to get better. I want my coach to see if I'm really improving. I want to have as many passive monitoring mechanisms as possible outside of the ones I actively log, because it will just help me understand. Because humans, as a tendency, once we see the numbers, we tend to compete with ourselves. Oh, took me from wake up an hour and a half to get to my desk and be productive. Tomorrow I'm going to try for 125. That's what we're like. This is why I talk about measuring everything. I go for walks with Daniela, and I time our walks because I'm always curious. I'm like, how long is our walk today? And I'll say, it's a thing. It's like 38 minutes. We're aiming for 45. Okay, tomorrow. I time fucking everything. I time how long it takes me to eat because I'm curious in the day. I'm like, okay. I just kind of amble about, and so the more that you measure, the more that you'll compete against yourself because it's you against you. How many calls did I really make? Let me have a look at the reports. Let me automate to my email the activity tracking report so I just know how much I think I did versus what I did. So, and that will give you a better sense of your performance, and that will give you better leverage when you walk into that conversation with your employer. And I'll give you a bonus one. I'll give you a bonus one. And I'll come out to you guys. The people that have made the money the fastest and the quickest in this company have never asked me for a pay rise. It's been the people whose value was so undeniable that I went to them and said, I want to pay you more money because they understood the path. I'll say that again. Now, of course, that's not going to work in every employment case. It's not going to work in every company. It's not going to work in every market environment. It will fucking here because talent, there's that saying, real recognize real. And you see from a mile off the people that are fucking performing and putting in the work and logging their reps and just growing. So the people that have all of the company's highest earners have never asked me for a pay rise ever. It's just come to them. I've just come to them and I said, you can have this, you can have that. Why? Because you're just so fucking good. It's like self-evident. So that's the final bonus tip that if you're in an environment where and that's obviously a difficult thing to do because some of you feel that I'm putting my um fortunes into the hands of other people. But but in most environments, if you make yourself indispensable, as I said, someone will notice and you never know who's looking. And certainly at Pearl Lemon, that's been the path. So I'll open up to any Q&A that people have got now. I'm happy to take people's questions if you've got any before we move to comments and feedback. Any questions?
Um, I'll go for it, Darren.
Okay, all right, hang on.
Thank you, John.
Let me put my headphones on so I can hear you guys properly. Put my dorky headphones. Okay, let's just go to people's main takeaways then instead. And if someone does have a question, if someone does have a question, of course, feel free to ask. But yeah, go ahead. Whoever wants to go first with their takeaways.
Yeah, I had a question
Yeah,
actually.
sorry, go ahead, Aaron.
Um, what do you measure?
Revenue and client at the moment, to be honest with you, at the moment, client retention is our biggest thing that we need to change. We I focused on the wrong thing for a long time, which is more leads, more leads. We don't need more leads. Actually, Alex Hormozy said if he could do it all over again, he'd just focus on product. So everything else takes care of itself. Be so fucking good with your client delivery that you don't need to do any marketing. If our results are so good, we wouldn't even need a fucking website. We'd have clients, Carla being like, whoa, these guys are phenomenal. They did this website developed in 2 months instead of four. Our SEO results are rocking. She'd make some introductions. So, in terms of my short to medium term focus, the mindset thing is the biggest piece that I think will change delivery because I want the people that are here to want it. And right now, I do these calls every day because I see that, as Temi was saying, Masood and Abdullah are more proactive and chatty than they've ever been. And Sebastian comes to me and he shared with me a document for his personal goals that he's got and what he's trying to do professionally. And you guys, Aaron and you, Evan, I know you guys are thinking about stuff over the weekend. So delivery is our bottleneck from going from 1 million to 5 to 10 million. I honestly think that we can become a $5 to $10 million company if we can figure out delivery. And the crazy thing is, time will tell, but fucking hell, was the cost me just sitting and talking to you guys for an hour a day for a month the answer. Is that sometimes it's like duh, you need to align your goals with the goals of people individually. So yeah, that's what I'm focused on right now, mate. That's why your development is so important because also the thing that I'm optimizing for, we've got different people, different colors, different creeds, different back, shared vision, shared culture, or I'm trying to shared standards as well, right? I want us to all be a team of fucking warriors. Not everyone will last because some people will not want it. Some people will have other, and that's okay because that's life, right? That's life. But I'm trying to optimize for that because also to my point before, if I can do it with enough people here, I can probably do it again in 3 months from now, and I can probably do it even better. Because when the next group of individuals come through our applications, the idea is I'll have 100 videos on YouTube of mine that they can already watch. So they come in with that headspace, and that I believe will change. That's what I think would move us from hovering between 700 to 1.2, 1.4 mil. That will take us to 5 mil, I think. We'll see, obviously. I could be completely fucking wrong, but so that's what I'm focused on at the moment, which is why these things are so important to me because also I'm trying to instill the fact that, I don't clock watch. I don't think, okay, it's 5 o'clock, I need to check out. Like work and life are like a function of the same thing because it's about success and about personal and professional endeavors, about just getting fucking relentlessly better. So I believe that this is worthy of the time. So yeah, that's why I'm so dedicated to this right now. But it's also because I've got so there's lead and lag indicators that you have once you work out where you want to head towards. So your lead indicator for you is how many appointments am I booking? Your lag indicator is, well, how many of them were successful? And then how many of those successful appointments did the clients convert? And therefore, how many clients is Pearl Lemon retaining? You won't know that for a little while. Not really, but you will. So my lead indicators are the voice notes I get from you guys, the people that I see at the weekends putting some work in, the feedback that I get about this has changed, that has changed. And then the lag indicator, I believe, will be clients are happier, they're staying 1 or 2, 3, 4, 5 months longer. We're not really losing clients as much anymore. Clients are still coming in. Pearl Lemon's going from 800K, 900, a million, a million two, million four, 2 million. So that's my focus at the moment, mate. Cool. Any other questions, guys?
I mean, I have a question, but I can just give it with my takeaways. I need it in my takeaways, if that makes sense.
I'll ask the question first because it might be useful for others.
Okay, it's related to one of my takeaways, but the question is you mentioned working around your constraints and that you will often be main constraint. And for example, now one of my main constraints
Mm.
is to be sick. And if I'm sick, my productivity levels just decline, obviously.
Mm.
And you also mentioned putting systems in place to help you circumvent those constraints. And in this case, what a good example of that would be.
So if you're talking about sickness in general, obviously the underlying practical thing is why did I
Don't
get
be
sick?
sick. Don't
Well,
be sick. Yeah.
it's a moot thing to say, but now this is perhaps somewhat controversial because some people will say that I'm the victim of sicknesses that are outside of my control. And I would say that there's a book that I read that is the story of read stories of Franklin Roosevelt, who became the president of the United States, born incredibly sickly, said he wasn't going to live beyond a certain age, severe asthma, weakling, bully, all of this stuff. And read his life story and how he rose to become the president of the United States in spite of being really sickly child. And that's a good reflection point. I'll find the exact book that I read because it was really, really useful to read that. So that's a useful reference point. So know that there's people that are sicker than you that achieve more than you. Obviously, that's not always useful in the moment where you're sick. But then, of course, what's underneath that is don't just be healthier. And you being healthier might be different for different people. So practically, what do I mean by that? I can run 100 mile ultras, right? I can without having any joint problems or mechanical problems, right? So that's just me. Now, I know other people that do the same runs that aren't like that. They have a knee ache mile 20, they have a fucking this, that, this, that. So they have to engage in a different series of precautionary activities, health than I do. However, I know other people that can bench press 120 kilos within 2 months of training. And it take me fucking probably 2 years because I'm a weakling, as an example. So I've had to work a lot harder for that. So everyone's constraints when it comes to health will be different. Figure out what yours are and just get over it, bro.
Hmm.
Because you
Yeah.
just need to be stronger. And that might mean you need to dive deeper. So run, I mean, I don't know, have you run your blood work? Have you looked at what your actual specific deficiencies are? Have you looked at that type of stuff? Have you had your heart scanned again since you had those other challenges? Like, I don't know how deep down the rabbit hole you've gone because you can go deep down that rabbit hole. Look at, Brian Johnson, if any of you have heard of him, the guy that wants to live to fucking 200 or whatever, and he's spending $2 million a year to push the edges of what's possible with current technology. So I would say that, sickness can be like I say cured. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I would say just figure that out, and just push forward.
Yeah. I mean, my question was more not in terms of not to get sick, was more obviously because you said, like, for example, when you're running, people get joint pains, mile 20, whatever it might be. In this case, I'm usually a very healthy person. I rarely get sick. This case, just as you know, my grandma came over. It was her birthday, and she came in a bit sick. Got my dad sick, then got me sick. In this case, the analogy would be like you're running mile 20, you get hit by a car, and then your knee just conks out. And but my question was more in terms of how to handle not being at your best, because especially with sales, you need to be like have this persona, have this attitude, have this mindset where you need to be mentally clear and engaging. And if you're sick, you're just like a bit more. Whew. So it's like
Of course, of
how
course.
to build how to avoid that constraint of being able to maintain the same level of efficiency even if you're not feeling at that level.
Well, I think that you won't be at the same level, but you need to do the best you can because
Yeah.
Eon sometimes or is often sick because he's got his kids and they bring
Hmm.
home bugs from school. And he has sent me so many voice notes saying he feels like shit, but he's like, I put a brave face on for the calls that I have and I get on with it. So
Yeah.
I would say that that's all you can do in those circumstances. No secret with that, to be honest with you. Just yeah, you're sick, you feel shit, get on with it. You'll be better tomorrow, but don't let your clients feel that on the call.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's it.
Okay.
So any other questions, or we'll just go straight to takeaways? Cool. All right, great. So let's go. I'll come back to you, John. Anyone want to go through their main things that they think? Yeah, cool. Tell me.
I think aside from I would say just working on myself and having a more structured, like I already have benchmarks which I could potentially just add to it, but that I can look at every month on the same day just to see how the previous month was. I think the main thing for me is more my team because
Hmm.
as much as I can do what I can do and like
Hmm.
learn from that, like we still work as a
Hmm.
like a collective. And like you
Hmm.
said, when your team wins, then the company wins. Like even if I'm putting in let's say like 15 hours a day and everybody else is let's say putting in less,
Hmm.
there's only like so much that I
Of
can have an
course.
impact on the company from doing. So I think being able to inspire or encourage the people around me will be my biggest focus actually. Like
Yeah.
while I'm doing, yeah, focusing on myself, I also think trying to give people that kind of
Yeah.
yeah, like encouragement.
Yeah.
It's my biggest focus.
Amazing. You all have seen it with me. So one voice note from me sometimes can lift you up. We all fucking need cheerleaders in our lives. Helps. Of course it fucking helps. Be a cheerleader in someone else's life as well. Because of course we take energy from it. Of course we like recognition from our peers. Of course we do. It's useful and it's helps and it's powerful. And when you are a cheerleader in someone else's life, they want to fucking, the goal is that I want the people around me to be prepared to go to fucking war for me and with me. How do I do that? Because then my team will raise their level to the best of their ability, and that will amplify all of the results, which is what I'm trying to do right now, right? I'm trying to raise the level of the team because I want everyone to go to fucking war with me, because then I think that I can hugely leverage the overall result. which is what I'd never really understood before, which is why my YouTube videos historically have not produced the outcomes that I've wanted. You've all been through the Archbee fucking training and seen the billion onboarding videos. It didn't work. It didn't fucking work because I'm not where I imagined I would be. So sometimes the road is like that. I produced fucking 50 hours probably, maybe more. I produced because there's 137 days of cold calling. There's like 67 days of account management. There's like 59 days. I'm sure they carry some value, but that's just how progress sometimes looks like. It's like, yeah, I spent so long doing the fucking wrong thing before I figured out that okay, maybe this is the right thing. It's like it's all about you got people. It's like until you can make people care, it doesn't matter what you know or what they think they know. You got to make people care. And that I didn't do a good enough job of that. So now the main key is I've got to make Temi you care, Troy you care about the clients, about success, because then the rest follows. So yeah, having your team care for you and care for themselves, it's an amazing fucking skill. It's power because we all operate in teams, and that's why to some degree, I mean, that's I go back to the basics, like read. So how do I do that? I don't know. Fucking read about it, read about it, read about it, read about it. That's what I've used to catalyze everything. And once I developed the discipline, I then read for like 4 HR books because I wanted to understand more about hiring. And then I read about 3 books about account management because I wanted to understand. So really, I optimized my learning muscle and it was like, cool, I think I need to know about this stuff. Let me just read 3 books. And already I probably catapult myself into the top 10% of all account managers because account managers, most of them probably don't read. But that's going to change now at Pearl Lemon because people here get it. So everything's going to change now, I believe. So I was optimizing for about 6 years for the wrong thing, Temi. So now I am, and I encourage you aggressively to help your team level up, and it begins with like cheerleading, inspirational, because we all need it. I fucking love it when my peers in the agency space say, "Bro, you're killing it." Of course, it makes me feel good. Of course, it makes me want to help them. They're like, "Bro, you're doing really fucking well. I see you putting this YouTube content out, man. You're killing it." It's like, of course I like it. Everyone does. It's human. And we often don't do it enough for our peers. And I didn't. And I've begun doing that, but now I'm, developing. Anyway, so thank you, Temi. And I am excited for that journey that you go on also, because, if you can get even more from your team and inspire Masood and Abdullah and Banale and Ashima and Gary and everyone, then it will make your life way easier for sure, for sure. Malcolm.
Yeah, my main takeaway point is excelling despite how the market is rewarding you or whatever is happening in the market. I think that's really, really important because as I mentioned, we're in the space where sometimes you can't control other external things that can happen to a client campaign, but you can do everything that you can do so that if a Google core update happens, you other clients may suffer, but as you mentioned, others will also excel.
Yeah.
So that was one of them, and really being irreplaceable in the team. And one way you can do that is by inspiring your team. So you mentioned something about if you can't do their job, you can replace them. But I think spending a little bit more time with the team, showing them the ropes, encouraging them, that would definitely help with the other point that is related to the money. So for us as the SEO team, it's how many conversions the client is getting, how many leads they're getting. So if we can just be really close to that, I feel like it will definitely not help Pro Lemon, but us as individuals, as you were mentioning in the early meeting, we will be rewarded by the market.
Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. Working in spite of the market will help you be rewarded by the market, 100%. Quick sidebar, side note, that's why I said a quick win to do that is every client should be consistently producing content because it offers more keywords to help them rank on Google, which is why I said, Temi, if we just produce those 30 pieces of content for DAR, that will get rid of a lot of other problems because they'll begin to see green metrics because they don't produce content. So that's why content was actually one of the big gateways for us getting £20,000 a month clients, because I started to introduce this notion of the content blitz. Because I thought, you know what? If I have a website and it goes from 100,000 words to 1 million words, it's probably more likely to get traffic and probably inquiries. That was my idea, and that's what led to a big content writing journey. That's why we produce so much content now for our internal websites, because it's just simple math at that point. So figuring things like that out, and also doing that, but for reference by clients, like aggressively demand that from them, or let's do it for them. And I'm happy to write off the money to a degree, because the return on investment that we get as the graph goes green, goes right, and goes up. Typically, even nerds, theirs has been really botched and really badly done, but the graph is still green and gone up to the right, to be honest with you, for their blog content. So yeah. So figuring out things like that, Malcolm, whatever that constitutes is great, because then it's a key strategic change that can make a difference, which is why for the cold calling team, aggressively investing a week, learn how to list build, learn all the fucking tools. It will change your outcomes. It will 100% change your outcomes. Don't, like all of you should, don't leave that to other people. Unless you think that other person is so brilliant and bright that they're just going to fucking, if they can't solve it, how can I solve it? And even then, there's always questions, because we all have different ways of seeing it. But that's if that's the constraint of the department, then fix that yourself. Don't wait for others, and then show others if you want to. Like whatever, don't make it your permanent job, but make it your job to learn the job and then teach others. Because in the end, you still win. You're like, Deeps, you know what? I get now 8 appointments a day, not because I improved as a caller. I just fucking massively improved the list. It was a hard weekend of tearing my hair out. It was a hard 1 week of tearing my hair out. And that's it. And that's where investments can massively compound. If all goes to shit, I'm never going to lose these videos, and all of them are going to go on YouTube. Much like my communication and autonomy training, I talk about it like 0 to 1 value. It's not the case. A lot of people did watch those videos, and some people did get value, and I never need to redo those videos, because they're there now and they live forever. So that's where I say, you know what? If the difference between you success and failure is something as simple as really learning how fucking LinkedIn Sales Navigator works, it's crazy that people don't do it. Anyway, cool, great. I'll take one more person's feedback and then we'll wrap. Cool. All right, guys. Thank you. Appreciate you. And again, I'll just list them out. 1, connect your work to revenue. Save money, make money, save time. Number 2, identify your quickest path to revenue. 3, identify your constraints. 4, then identify how you can 10x the value you provide. So find the quickest route to Rome once you understand all of the roads that are available to you. So if you think that the differences, for example, with me cold calling aren't that significant, maybe the quickest road to Rome is improving the list. Maybe you need to go about it sideways to get your result. Maybe that's where I said, Malcolm, that do I need to really be aggressive at technical SEO, or can I just make sure we fucking get blog content going up every week? Because that's going to be an easier way to provide the same result. There's many examples of websites online that have shit technical SEO but have great PR, and therefore they get great results because they're in the newspapers everywhere. So, that's another example of how you can work in spite of the market. Deepak, my client, doesn't do what I tell them to from a technical SEO perspective, but I've worked out a methodology to get them into Forbes, Inc., Entrepreneur, systematically. So have such quality links, it doesn't matter. That's something, that's a role I'm trying to find, by the way. So, and then log your wins, log your victories, and then bring them to me. Great. Thank you, guys. That's it.